I'm so confused as to why this was just dismissed. And then the gentleman you were with that night later did commit suicide, correct?
Yes, he did, in November of that same year.
And he had multiple friends who had, in this very town, been maimed on those train tracks, correct?
Yeah, he had told me once before, and he even said this outside of the hospital, because he had stayed in my life after this entire accident and came to visit me in the hospital. And my mother was sitting outside with me, and he goes, you know, I've had 4 or 5 friends that have been maimed, hurt, or killed by a train right there in that little town.
Wow. And after this incident happened and you were trying to figure out what was going on, trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, what was the support like in your community? What happened there?
Well, obviously it's been 3 years now since this has happened, and I haven't come out to share my story because to a certain extent, to a big extent, I've been victim shamed. You know, people are constantly like, you chose to drink. It's your fault you're in your position.
And you know that's not true.
Yeah.
I had 2 beers and 2 shots. I'm 24 years old, at the time 21. Who doesn't?
Exactly.
This whole story is troubling, beginning with the fact the police said, oh, this was just a suicide attempt. The man you were with saying multiple other people were maimed, not doing any drug testing to see if maybe you had your drink spiked, and then your community victim shaming you. Your mom, Lisa's here. I cannot imagine what that feels like to see your daughter treated that way. What are you most, I want to try to flip this to something, what are you most proud of?
For everything, her endurance, her inner strength, for wanting to fight and make things better for people, to be an inspiration. She's very good with children when they sit there and stare at her. She's in college right now. She wants help trying to learn how to walk better in her prosthetics. I'm proud of her for everything. She hasn't given up, and I won't let her.
Because it sounds to me like you know, there may be no resolution ever as to what happened to you that night, and yet here we are 3 years later. You have personally persevered despite all those odds, despite the victim shaming, despite not knowing what happened that night. That is pretty amazing.
I think it's important to point out what Dr. Travis is saying about what an incredibly inspirational, strong person you are to come here, despite all of this and despite everything. I mean,
and I want to also applaud you, because now I understand you haven't been able to get all the physical therapy that you wanted, but you're now walking on prosthetics and learning really on your own.
Yeah, for the most part.
wow.
I like to cook a lot in my prosthetics. I'll be in my kitchen, you know, just kind of whipping stuff up because I have counters to kind of stabilize me and et cetera.
I know you've been working hard to get more and more comfortable in your prosthetics, and we did reach out to Ascend Physical Therapy in Colorado Springs. They have experience working with amputees and prosthetics. They know that you have some current issues trying to learn how to use your prosthetics, and they've agreed to give you at least 1 visit every week for an entire year, completely free of charge.
That's amazing.
To work with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
And I will just say this to anyone watching at home. If you know Mandy and you know anything about what may have happened that night, I got to tell you, I am bothered by what went down and the fact that there's not been any further investigation. I always want a call to action. If anyone knows anything about what may have happened that night, we just may prevent it from happening to someone else in the future. God bless you, Mandy, for all you've been through and being so brave.